Well, on today's Signature Style Saturday, it's all about indoor-outdoor living this time of year. Specifically for us in the great room, on our outdoor patio, in the outdoor living room, I've got all sorts of fun surprises to show you that's going on in our raised beds and in the ground. And, well, let's just share some book recommendations, maybe a few videos we're watching. So what do you say? Let's do it. Okay, did we have a great time in Denver or what? I think you guys enjoyed watching it. I certainly enjoyed being there, though it was a very, very quick trip, not nearly as long as I would have liked. And you had lots of questions and lots of comments, and I certainly can't address all of them, but some of the more recent ones, I thought it might be fun if we just kind of walked through, looked at those questions, some of your observations, and addressed them. So let's do that right now. And forgive me if it takes me a moment to find the questions and come up with the answers, because what I do is I just take a screenshot of them. Okay. Hi, Linda. This is from JL. Can you help them install drip irrigation to ensure all the plants and shrubs get adequate amounts of water? And then it goes on. Well, yes, I could, but remember, I was there for a pretty short period of time and I don't live in Denver. So they are addressing it. However, they have somebody right now who is helping them install drip irrigation. And I think that's wonderful. Now, some of you one of you said, so why are you digging the holes and your son isn't? Well, because I was there for such a short amount of time, remember, they are working. And so they were working on Monday when I was digging some of the holes. And so they were dressed in nice clothes and they just came out to shoot some things. And I wanted to finish the project before I got on the plane. So that answers that question. My son would have happily dug the holes. He did some other things. That said, it's interesting to me because my sons are both a fusion of both their mother and their father. So Jamie has a lot of character traits that are mine, but he also has a lot that are his father's. And when they were growing up, most of the stuff outside, including the mowing, the fixing stuff around the house house maintenance, I pretty much did all of that. And sadly, I was probably good about teaching them how to do the laundry, but I wasn't necessarily good about teaching them how to mow the lawn, or more importantly, I was probably a control freak and I wanted it done my way, so I did it. Even Hubs very rarely mowed the lawn, which explains the end of the video where I was mowing the lawn. But they are hopping on board now that they know how easy it is. But my husband's philosophy was, that's why I work all of the time, is so that I can pay people to do things I don't do very well. And I respect that. And I think my son has kind of gotten to that point too. He and his wife, they're working all of the time. And so if somebody can do it better and more effectively, then they will pay, if they can afford it, to have someone else do it. That said, sometimes you can't always afford to pay. And so they're learning how to do some of that stuff themselves. But that answers a couple of those questions that you had. Martha says, I enjoyed watching your video. I was intrigued by the thought of putting Orange Rocket Barberry and Fire Chief Arborvitae together for a perfect display. Well, I'm so glad you noticed that, and you may be a new follower, because I have shown that about 1 million times. It's on Autumn's Edge. It is one of the most effective pairings that I think there are. And then I would make it a triumvirate, and to that I would add probably Kaleidoscopeabelia because I think it's absolutely beautiful. Okay. Question from Tony Hedrick. Why didn't you all widen the walkway to the size of the gate? The garden beds look beautiful. Always love learning new things from you. And I'm not sure which walkway you were talking about, other than maybe the concrete walkway that goes out to the back to the alley. That was just there when they bought the house, and it's concreted in, and they really didn't have the funds to widen it anymore.
Isn't there a weird little like edge to it down there or something like a?
Yeah, it is kind of weird. And the other walkway, I'm not sure what you're talking about. But that said, obviously you try to do what you can when you can. Some of you were concerned about where little Danny's tree or the baby's tree is going to be. Was too crowded in that corner or whatever. And well, obviously the exact location has yet to be determined. It's just going to be in that general vicinity. And thank you so much to all of you who made wonderful tree recommendations. I especially appreciate those that are from the Colorado area, because I'm just up there helping. I'm doing research, but I certainly am not that experienced in gardening in Colorado. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll answer a couple more. Well, after working at my kids' house all weekend, I think I deserve some me time, starting with a treatment on my Omnilux contour device. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go get a manicure and a pedicure. I am going to go get my hair trimmed, and then later tonight, after a long, relaxing bath, when I don't have any makeup on, I am going to put on this kind of scary thing. Okay, isn't that kind of spooky looking, but in a good way? So I'll make sure again that I don't have any makeup on, because I want it to do its thing. I want that red light therapy to really maximize what it does best. It's going to help minimize fine lines and wrinkles, minimize pore size. If I've got discolorations in my face, it's going to help minimize those. Recently, I had a little bit of a rosacea breakout thanks to my stupidity going outside without sunscreen on, and I had some kind of red blotches. It's going to help with those. It's going to give me greater facial elasticity, and really plump that up a little bit, and all of that kind of firming and just textural improvement is worth using this device. Now, I use it every other day. I did not take it with me on my trip, however, so I'm anxious to get back on my schedule. And if you do take it when you travel, it comes with this handy little travel pack. Now, I do try to keep it stored flat, and I will wipe it off with a damp rag every so often to just make sure there's no kind of residual buildup on it or whatever. But I really like this. If you've got inflammatory facial issues like me, then you might want to check out the QR code right here. Check out this link, and you too might want to consider one of these Omnilux contour facial devices. They're the best. Okay, Veronica Breckler had a great comment. Hi, Linda. Jim Putnam had some great remarks about AI and gardening questions, which made a lot of sense. And I would encourage you to go back and watch Jim's video about it. He is way far above me pay grade wise in terms of horticultural information. As you guys know, I come from more of a design perspective, and he makes a great point not to completely rely on it. And I would second that, with the exception that I look at, and in fact, I was on a panel the other night talking about gardening. I look at ChatGPT, AI, Google Lens, all of those things as just one tool in your digital toolbox for gardening. Seldom do I probably just take the answer right off of the bat, but sometimes when I can't get a definitive answer, I have found that sometimes ChatGPT is right spot on, and it gives me the information I couldn't find somewhere else. The other thing is, I have also found that you really can't rely on any source completely, and you should look at all sources with skepticism. I have said more than once that even plant tags are simply a recommendation, because we all have planted things that far exceeded the suggested mature height, that couldn't handle full sun, that couldn't handle your zone and promptly died, even though it was on the plant tag. That said, I have also received and probably given really bad information from so-called experts. And that's why you have to be the expert of your own garden and what works there and what doesn't work there and what works in your neighborhood and exactly where you live. So I so appreciated that, Veronica. By all means, check out Jim's information. He is great. He gets much more down into plant nitty and horticultural nitty gritty than I do. But like I said, I think all sources should be met with skepticism, because I think a lot of times your personal experience, your anecdotal experience will defy whatever that information you obtained, whether it was from a digital source, a person, or even a book. Well, it's been a while since we've shot anything in the great room, primarily because this is where Hubs hangs out. And when we shoot, I try to kind of respect his space back here, because this is his domain. My domain is more in the front of the house, though we do hang out in here a lot when we're watching movies and some such. So I want to give you just a few updates. But beforehand, I do want to answer one more question one of you had. And they said, Linda, you have a lot of stuff and yet it doesn't seem to look cluttered. Do you have any tips? And I've got maybe a few tips. And thank you for saying it doesn't look cluttered, because sometimes it looks cluttered to me. Partly because this is where we live our life. And while if it's ready, magazine ready, then there's not a lot of just daily clutter, but daily living produces clutter. So give yourself a break, even though, number one, I do have certain designated areas that I consider to be no dump zones. In other words, you can never have things on the corner of my island. As Stuart will attest, anytime anybody sets anything down there, I say, no, you can't. This is a no dump zone. And I declared that, I think, as soon as we moved in.
And I don't think I've done it since.
Yeah, I don't think you've done it since. I don't think I really yelled. It was just a gentle suggestion.
No, I respect it.
The other thing is, if you have a lot of stuff, my bookshelves notwithstanding, and my bar areas notwithstanding, typically anything that is on a surface, I try to have negative spaces between those things. So for example, there's a little bit of negative space here between the flower arrangement. There's negative space in between my stacks of books over here. And I know you guys will ask me about these battery operated lamps, and I will get you that link. The other thing is if something comes in, something gets removed. So we have these gorgeous art pieces that came from Africa. They belonged to my brother-in-law, Johnny, and Jamie brought them out of storage the other day. He really wanted to have them here in the great room. So when these came in, some other things that were sitting around, they went out. Another thing that I think can, and this will probably lead to my question of the day, and what your feelings are on it. Someone also asked, I notice you don't have a lot of picture frames out. Why is that, or why isn't that? And I would say that picture frames, as much as I love them with pictures of my loved ones, they tend to get cluttery looking. And also, while most of those pictures are really important to me and to my husband, they may not be important to the general public, with a very few exceptions. So I do have picture frames of my loved ones, and yes, I will have many of my granddaughter when she's born, but those I may have one or two out in public spaces, but for the most part, those are relegated to what I consider to be my private spaces, my bedroom, my office, Jamie's bedroom, where he typically gets dressed and everything. And so I think that's the answer to that question, and may help a little bit with the clutter thing. The other thing is I'm constantly moving things in and out and redecorating, if you will. So if something comes up from the basement, something has to go down to the basement. That said, in certain areas, I do, like many of you, tend to be a maximalist. In this room, in the great room, I tend to be more of a maximalist, because we've got a lot of things in here that I think, in my opinion, again, there's many forms of beauty, you do you and we do us, that look good in kind of a crowded kind of way. The perfect example of that is just a gallery wall. That in unison they all look better. You'll notice that in my front spaces I tend to not have as much out. So that's just a little bit of my theory on maximalism versus minimalism. And here's where I want to give a big reminder about something that's coming up. Well, you know what? I'll just tell you about that when we come back. So here's a heads up and a little bit of a warning. So this coming week, I'm going to be going with Stuart to New York and Connecticut. We are beyond thrilled. We are going to meet up with my friend John Saldivar, and why he is being so good to us, I do not know. We are Instagram friends. We've been talking for a few years. He is just a wonderful human being, and he lives across the street from Bunny Williams. And so we are going to go see Bunny Williams' garden. We are going to see a number of other very famous gardens, some of which Stuart is going to put right here, and we're going to show you some images from some of those famous gardens. We're going to try to maybe go visit White Flower Farm. We are going to maybe visit some of the charming shops in Falls Village, Connecticut. We're going to, I say try, because we have no idea what the weather's going to be like. We don't know how much time we'll want to be in every venue. Because I know myself, once I get to a place, I just want to stay there. And then I get to the next place and I just want to stay there. So we're just going to do the best we can. That's the only thing I know to say is we're going to do the best we can, but be patient with us. So if next weekend we are not posting on our regularly scheduled Signature Style Saturday and the Garden Life on Sunday, that is why, kind of like last weekend when we were in Denver. Thank you so much for your patience. Hopefully you felt that it was worth waiting for. Back to about clutter, anti-clutter strategies. Another thing is not to have too many different color palettes going simultaneously. So this room is largely whites and browns and tawny colors, punctuated with just a few shots of maybe a burnt red and just a few other colors. But primarily it's got a pretty tight color palette, and because of that, I think if you have too many colors going, I think it can look a little bit Disney-esque, and it can look a little bit more cluttered because your eye doesn't see a rhythm and harmony between those different spaces. And that goes all the way to considering the inside to the outside. So one of the reasons that I decided to go with a different color palette in the backyard, the brilliant reds and golds and russets in those colors, is because I knew these windows were going to be very prominent, very much the showcase when you walked into the room. And I even wanted those outdoor spaces to be consonant with the indoor spaces and look as if they kind of speak the same language. Another tip I would give you, and we'll try to do a roundup of these tips, if not in today's video, but later, and that is if you have different kinds of fabrics, or you have a fabric on multiple different pieces in your room. For example, I've got these stools that have this faux leopard print on them. And I also have different, for example, on this chair, I've got two throws, but they're the same fabric. Notice that everything runs in the same direction. So it would look more cluttered if this was running in one direction and this was running in another. The same thing with those two stools. If one was running in one direction and the other was running in another direction, it just looks a little bit more cluttered to me. So those are the kinds of things when you see designers or stylists and they're just constantly tweaking and doing these kinds of things, that's probably what they're doing, because on some level it just kind of bugs them. Okay, a little bit of a review on what I am watching and what I am reading. Number one, I have been watching two different things. One is a very, very old movie. It's got Hugh Grant and I can't remember the actress in it. It was called Impromptu. It may have been on Prime. I'm not really sure, but it is a story about, probably fictional, I need to do my research, romance between Chopin and George Sand, the writer George Sand. It's very, very interesting. I loved watching it from a number of different perspectives. I loved looking at her wardrobe because back in Victorian times, she often dressed as a man. And I really loved that. And I found it very interesting from a societal perspective on how at that point in time, it was in some ways maybe even easier than it is now for women to break social conventions for just that window in time, and probably only for a very specific class, intellectuals, artists, things of that nature. Anyhow, watch it and tell me what you think. It's an old movie. Hugh Grant is very young in it. The other series that I have been watching is The Better Sister. And boy, it is really good. And it's got, is it Jessica Biel?
Oh, I think so, actually, yeah.
I can't remember. It's got 2 actresses in it you will recognize.
I think
I'm bad about that. And it is really, really interesting. It's a series, and it has unique twists and turns and mind games. And anyhow, it's a good mystery if you want to watch that. What I am reading, because I am going to Ireland this summer, I am going back and I'm reading some of the books that I have on Irish gardens. And Helen Dillon was probably my favorite Irish gardener. I visited her garden in Dublin a couple of times. She now has a different garden on the coast. Anyhow, she is witty. She is full of wisdom. She is just a bright spot in your day. And the nice thing is you don't have to read the whole thing through and through. You can just select kind of the season that you're in. So this is an oldie but goodie, Helen Dillon's on gardening. She used to write, I believe, a gardening article for the Denver or the Dublin Times. And then I probably showed you this before, but I really love this book, The Slow Down by Leanne Ford. One of the reasons I love it is because I love references, contemporary books that reference different historical things. And in this book, she often uses Elsie de Wolfe as a muse. You may recall that I got John Turman when he was recovering. I got him a book on Elsie de Wolfe. So anyhow, I really love this. And this is the one image that I am really dissecting right now. And that's a fun, try it at home. Open one of your books and try to really dissect an image that you love. And in this one, what I really honed in on was the fact it's got 2 flower arrangements, one in the foreground, this small bouquet of magnolia blossoms, but then this tall vase in the back with this just wiry, windy, whimsical, wonderful branch that's in here. And then I wouldn't have instinctively thought to have a punch of black and white stripe in that vignette, but nevertheless, it works. And so just by deconstructing this, I think it can be really, really valuable. And one more thing, I want to give you guys a product update. I told you in a product video that I put up last week that I was trying for the first time this Essie gel-like nail polish. And I didn't know if it was going to be long lasting or not. Well, I am here to report to you that on day 4, I'll be putting another coat on, but on day 4, it has not chipped. It still looks good. And this is after, yes, I confess, 2 days of gardening in my own yard where I was digging in the dirt. I didn't have on garden gloves, and nevertheless, it did not chip and really looks very presentable. Now, I did get a manicure, and I took my polishes to the manicurist to put it on. So probably their technique is better than my technique would have been. But nevertheless, I am thrilled with how well it has done. This is not a sponsored post. I'm thrilled with how well it has done on both my toes and my hands. And yes, I will be buying more of it in different colors. And here you go. Here is my outfit of the day from top to bottom. My earrings I got, I think, at Burlington Coat Factory a million years ago. My top, I am obsessed with this company now. It's a company called Our Bare Hands. I was getting out my summer clothes and I came across this top. Delphia and Johnny got me this for Christmas last year and I had not worn it because it hadn't been summer. So I put it on today and I absolutely love it. It's cotton linen, and I love everything in their clothing line. Now the clothes themselves are natural fabrics. They're made by refugees in Malaysia. It is a Singapore brand and my daughter-in-law has quite a bit of it and I think I might have to have more of it in my future because it's so comfortable. But what I like about it is the shapes are just a little bit distinctive. They're just a little bit different. And I don't know, I just really liked it. And here's a tip. If you have something that you're wearing or you're using and it was a gift from someone, this is kind of a secret of adulthood. And I've only started recently doing it myself. Wow. And that is, if you are using something and it was a gift from someone, in that moment, text them or call them to tell them that you are using whatever that gift was and that you absolutely love it, of course, if you do. So I called my kids this morning and told them how much I love it. And it was just a little quick greet and meet and thank you. So anyhow, that's you guys probably do it instinctively all the time. I was late to the party. Yeah, it's good to have a reminder. My breeches are just washable linen. They've got a drawstring and I have worn these for years now. Stuart recognized them and these belong to my son, Johnny. He bought them in India and he would wear these kind of loose pieces of clothing all of the time over there. And I have worn these for several years since. And I think I got these sandals probably at Target years ago. And yes, look at my pedicure. It too is still in place. I'm very happy with it. You may want to know about my wrist, all of that lifting. And by the way, here's something I want to show you. This is what I have found really exacerbates both my joint pain in my thumb, but also my golfer's elbow. And that is lifting up things like this and then bending my wrist, because these may not look like they're very heavy, but they are. So I am not doing that any longer. I am lifting them with two hands because I don't want to bend my wrist as much. That's what's putting strain on my elbows. But I have felt a twinge of it that it's starting to flare up again. So I've got my wrist brace back on. So I can't do that. The other thing I was taught is to just do these kind of stretches. So I've tried to do those stretches a little bit more. And my ring, I don't even remember where I got it. I think at a street fair. It's wood. I love it. It may not be everybody's style, but it kind of speaks to, I don't know. It speaks to tropical climes and I kind of like it. So there you go. There's my outfit du jour. Well, since today's segment is kind of about indoor-outdoor living, let me just tell you that the outdoors, for the past week, it's been like this. It's been sunny during the day, gets pretty hot, and then we've had torrential rainstorms at night. Thunderstorms, we've had lots of tornado warnings, tornado watches. Everything is kind of drenched. And I was just now able to put my pillows back out here in the backyard. But I am happy to report that with all of this rain, the backyard now is absolutely starting to communicate the vision that I had for it. Now, I know I've said that several times, but it just has had to mature and grow. And it's been with these recent rains that finally, particularly the boxwood, have been able to put on enough growth that when I come through the gate or when I come down the steps, that it gives the look that I want to get. A lot of the boxwoods, I mean, they are really putting on growth, and they're looking very, very green and very happy. The only things that I'm waiting on now to kind of perk up are these arborvitae that I planted, but they're putting on a lot of new growth, and I'm just trying to suck it up and be patient and just be patient. Now, the Annabelle hydrangeas, oh my goodness, they have been glorious. And most of the time, they have been standing up and flying right, but not the past couple of days, because not only has it been raining, but it's been a hard soil compacting kind of rain, and you can see they're kind of lying all over the place. So they are rainfall drunk. Now, by the end of the day, hopefully they will perk up and stand up straight again. And yes, I have cut multiple bouquets of them, but they're still pretty. Yeah, they're still pretty. They're just well, they're just a little bit waterlogged like the rest of us. The other thing that's kind of waterlogged back here, I keep pinching off all of my geraniums, and then we get a torrential rain, then sunlight, and so it kind of tends to melt the petals. But I still like this drift of red up and down the stairs, but then also just my pockets of red. This is, easy to do. I historically, one of you made the comment that you had never tried red in your garden, and you were trying it this year. And you know what? I sympathize with that, because I've never had red in my garden until this space. I mean, I may have had a few punches of it, but I have never had red in my garden. But boy, I now realize just how much it synergizes with other things. So in the front even, I imagine how some pops of poppy red in the front will be pretty when the larkspur bloom. It tends to enhance the beauty of all other things. And back here, I love the fact that it's just these pops of red, reddish orange, and then just nothing but green. And I think that's just, I don't know, I think it's just kind of fun, and it's different for me, and I like it. It has more of a Mediterranean, Colorado kind of Santa Fe vibe, which is why you guys will want to know. Here's my surprise number one. I have decided to leave that there. Partly because every time I think about moving it, it's too heavy for me to move. It is a buffalo skull that my husband found. He is an archaeologist, anthropologist of sorts. But the other reason is, you guys know my affection for Santa Fe, and it just kind of reminds me, this is very much a kind of look that would be in Santa Fe. So I'm happy with that. Okay, some more surprises. I may have showed you before, but now I have even more tomatoes on these very, very waterlogged, even though this has great drainage. Boy, we have had so much rain, record-breaking rain. We can't get a break from the rain. And
it is a Cherokee purple.
Yeah. But I do have some tomatoes, and hopefully I will be having even more. The other thing that has been very tardy in maturing and doing anything, and that is the basil, because we just haven't had any heat. So my boxwood basil, the little basils that I've got growing in here, those are growing rather slowly, and I've got a lot of basils that I seeded in here with an intent to transplant the seedlings, and I will be doing that, so that pretty much by the time I'm finished, the only thing growing in this raised bed will be these peppers, these tomatoes, which are very happy over here, and the oregano. I will remove all of the little basil seedlings at the end, and that will relate to my project later. When we come back, I'm going to show you my best surprise in the garden, I think, this year. Well, surprise number one was that the figs made it. And not only did they make it, but they didn't die all the way to the ground. I think partly because of the residual heat that maybe was coming off of the brick wall. I'm not sure. But they are doing magnificently, and they will be tall enough for me to potentially espalier them on the side of the wall. Now, I love the fact that they are getting so big, but I also love the fact that they are just so healthy. And you guys gave me lots of great tips. One of you said that a friend of yours gave their figs like 10 gallons of water a week or something. Well, I think one of the reasons they look so good is because we've had so much more rain. And I kind of mistakenly think of them as a Mediterranean plant that probably could be a little bit more drought tolerant, but nevertheless, I have found that they have really responded to all of this rain. So when the faucet finally gets turned off, I will make sure that they get adequate moisture going through into the summer. But I think they're absolutely beautiful and I love them. Now I've done something on this one, and this I found actually by consulting AI, and this led me to a video on figs and how to get them to produce more figs. And I'm happy to report, and I may have showed you this before, that I have a fig. Okay, and I am thrilled about that. But what's the big surprise? The big surprise is this is not the only fig I'm going to get, because I have tons of little fig nubs everywhere on this plant and on the other plant. Look at that little baby fig nub in there. There's one in here. There's nubs over there. Now, why do I have so many nubs, and what did the YouTube video show me? Well, the YouTube video told me that I needed to pinch the tips. Again, this might be something you guys have already known, but I did not know. So I started pinching the tips. You can see here where I pinched it. And that's why I have a little node, or I have a little nub of a fig there. Same here. I pinched this one, and the fig nub is right next to where I pinched it. I pinched this one up here, and look at the little nub there. So pinching it definitely made a difference, and I was so surprised and so pleased, and I'm so ready to have all sorts of figs, because man, I've been a pinching fool, to have all sorts of figs come off of this little Miss Figgy, my spotlight plant of the day from the Southern Living Plant Collection. I absolutely adore it, and I will adore the figs even more. Now here are a few of the projects I have been doing on this signature style Saturday, and will continue to do more. And poor Stuart is suffering the mosquitoes.
Not too bad.
Well, one project is going to be emptying out all of the containers that have standing water in them. But as soon as that would just keep refilling. But I shouldn't complain. Whenever we get rain, that's a good thing. So project number one, yesterday, so I guess this technically wasn't on Signature Style Saturday. I actually did it yesterday. I pruned all of my toques. So look at all of my myrtle topiary. And they are everywhere. And they're all outside right now, vacationing outside. And as I prune them, what I'm trying to do is I want some, like my Instagram friend Loy in Maine, he's got some mammoth topiary. And by the way, this is one of the things that I think Bunny Williams is also into. We're going to take a look at that when we get to her house. But what I'm trying to do is establish some myrtle topiary. This is compacta myrtle and it is not frost hardy. You have to bring it in, but where I can have some myrtles that are really huge. I lost a number of them when I relocated from the other house to this one, and so I continually am working on that. I've got some that are double balls. Then obviously I've got some just boxwood topiary over here. These need to be clipped on a little bit. Remember when we did these last year, Stuart?
Yep.
And they are very, very happy over here. And right now, yes, most of the backyard is in the shade, but later in the day, it will be a lot more sunny. That's something else that I want to point out. One thing I didn't learn until I was till I had gardened for years, and that is to constantly be reassessing the position of the sun, because what might be happy one day, the very next day may not be happy anymore, depending on the angle of the sun, the temperature, whether or not you've had rain. So when I do my morning walkabout with my cup of coffee, that's something that I'm constantly assessing. And then I try, no matter how hot it is, to come out midday and in the hottest part of the day to see what the sun is doing and if I potentially need to move around and relocate any of my container plantings. Now, when we come back, I'm going to show you another little fun project. Okay, you guys, these are darling little boxwood basils. Now, normally by now they would be a lot bigger, but we just haven't had any sun. And so they're not bigger. So I've done it in these 2 little pots from Carlina Elizabeth. You can follow her on Instagram, and I will put a link to her Instagram page that also has a link to her shop. But these are just some of my most prized little pots. I think they're adorable. I've got 2 that have boxwood basil in them. So one of my projects that I'm going to finish up later today is have a 3rd and put boxwood basil in here, and think how dear these are going to be with those tiny little mounds of boxwood in them. I just can't wait. Now, something else that I'm going to be working on, if you follow me this way, pardon the air conditioner because it's definitely air conditioning season. Here's another little topiary. These pots of dragon wing begonias, I can tell you right now, I'm going to have to move them to get a little bit more sun. They've been happy over here up until now, but I think they're just in too much shade, so I probably am going to be relocating them. But I digress, so come over here. And I've got a great clay pot right here. And another project is I am going to fill this with some potting soil, and then I've got all sorts of little seedlings of basil back there in that flower bed. And come through here, Stuart, just don't get in the mud. Here's my beans. My beans are happy. I've put on these supports that used to be part of my QVC line, and they're already starting to do their thing.
Are those snow peas? What kind of beans are those?
Those are purple pod beans, I think. Or some of them may be green too. Okay, my sweet peas, these are going crazy. Whoa. Yeah, these are going crazy, but I know, but they're finally blooming. And oh my gosh, the scent is incredible. I have no idea if they're all going to bloom in this pale color, but the scent is incredible. And this will be my individual little bloom that I can have by my bed at night with fragrance. So it was worth this experiment. So I would say this gardening experiment was worth it, even though this is a holy mess. I really did not expect them to grow this much, or I would have made more of a trellis for them. Okay, but here's my other pot here where I just threw some seeds in here, and all of this, you guys, is basil. Look, there's a little boxwood basil, and this is all taller kinds of basil. Lemon basil, so there's a boxwood basil, there's a boxwood basil. So all these little, these other boxwood seedlings, I will thin these out, and a lot of those I will put in that round clay pot that I showed you. Some of it will be just green basil, but some of it will be purple basil. And then I'm just going to keep it sheared really low so it continues to not flower and put out bushiness. And I hope to have this little mosaic of basil on top of that pot. So I think it'll be fun. I'll try to give you an update tomorrow. So speaking of tomorrow we will give you an update on the front yard after all of the rain and tell you kind of what's going on and give you a little bit more of an idea of some of the places that we're going to be visiting when we're coming up next week. So there you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's Signature Style Saturday. I sure enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, just make sure to put them in the comment section below. If you enjoy this content, you know the drill. Give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. And more importantly, if you know somebody who might be a little lonely and wants to be part of a community like ours, then please share this with them. You guys take care.